Fuck it, we'll do it live. You're in the show. Everyone can hear us.
Let's go.
Hello, everyone. What is going on?
This is our third weekly show, I think, of the Day Trading Attention Book Club stream.
We got to show the book. Every time you say the book's name, we got to show the book. We got to hide the book.
Day Trading Attention.
There we go.
We got Nick Miaritis here, Chief Client Officer. We're going back and forth on, this is actually like how the book came to life, is me jamming with different people within Vayner and just asking questions and getting details and compiling stuff. So I think this will be like a good, way of recreating that to some degree. And we'll just kind of riff back and forth on what we're seeing working. Nick has the luxury of having his personal account that also gets a lot of views, where he's able to do a lot of experiments and see what works and what doesn't. I work on Gary's content team and also kind of see things that are happening in the Vayner client life. So we'll just see, what's the latest on our minds.
I'm pumped. I mean, I don't know who all's out there. Let's see if we got some comments coming in. All right, we got a little what's good. Mikey T is here. Nice emojis. We will entertain. First off, did you eat your eggs this morning or no?
I did not.
Don't lie.
I did not eat my eggs this morning.
I
usually eat my eggs. I usually have 2 eggs that I mix with my meal prep pasta. That I did not do that this morning though.
Interesting. So are you'll violate the eggs for breakfast premise? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I eat whatever I want, whenever I want. Is my rule.
Why am I talking about eggs? Raghav alluded to it. I moonlight in the after hours of my life, usually 10 to 11 p.m. as the omelet king on the internet. You can check it out. But like Raghav said, it was a good prompt from our founder and CEO, Gary Vaynerchuk, to really, get into the maker mindset every single day, make things distributed throughout the pipes of social media. So every single day I'm flipping eggs on the internet. You can find it on my name, any of the handles. And so a lot of testing out of new concepts, new ideas, things from the book, talking about it with people like Raghav. It's a great behavior for anybody who listens to this. Is you got to have these conversations with each other. This stuff changes so fast. What worked yesterday doesn't work tomorrow. And so the information share is everything. And I'm sure even I will learn something right now because Raghav's the absolute best at this craft. And so I'm pumped to be here as well. So thank you all for your attention. Amazing. Someone's making a frittata now.
Oh,
all right, here we go. Into that. Make sure you put a little protein in there though, a little extra protein, maybe a little bacon, a little ham. All right, should we talk about content styles? What works? Is that with the slide? We got a little prompt here from the team.
Yeah, I mean, so like what this section of the book was about was, I think this is called real life scenarios, which is basically like how all the stuff comes into play into making a tactical piece of content and making the stuff work. So like when it comes to these, the formats that we're seeing working, authentic hooks, like, I guess from your perspective, I think like you post very similar types of content over and over again as Omelet King. Like, are there any insights, like when you do that, are there any insights or formats that you see work better than others? Like, how do you think about, like, okay, is it as simple as like, oh, if I flip the egg in this setting or this environment, it works. When I do it here, it doesn't. If I have, I'm just selfishly curious now. Like, is it like if you flip like 10 eggs in one thing, like, does it work? Like, what are you seeing there?
I think like, talk about that stuff and then talk about like brand stuff too. Yeah, so we'll cross the streams on that. Is I think the first thing for anybody who's trying to get some value out of this is yes and is a big thing we say at Vayner. And what that really means is the ability to not prejudge based on your gut and intuition only what to post or what not to post. And, it's been a huge piece of what I've learned from Gary and being, part of the VaynerX fam for the last 8 years is create the thing, put it out into the world, and then get the data. We call it post-creative strategy. I'm actually sitting in our chief strategy officer's office right now, Wanda Pogue. She's the best. But we really look at it post-mortem. Like, what did we learn from this? And so if I've posted, whether it's 3,000 different versions of eggs flipping on the internet on Instagram, which I think I have at this point, or if a brand we work on is, finding something that seems to work for them, and they're able to try and extract things back from it. I would say like the things that usually pop are sometimes the most obvious. And I think sometimes a big principle that hopefully people can identify with at home is we tend to become bored or disinterested in doing the same thing over because it feels like more effort will equal more views. And I learned this from Gary early on, and which is, Gary has a famous piece of content. Is it Raghav, you'll remember better than me, like 300 trillion to one?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 400 trillion.
400 trillion to one, 400 trillion to one, right?
400 trillion to one,
is that idea that Gary had, which if you all haven't seen that at home, 400 trillion to one, is a concept of just the miracle that being alive is. The fact that Raghav and I are talking about social media 13.8 billion years later in the universe, it's an astounding fucking fact. And he's created pieces of creative off of that idea for how many years now, Raghav? Like how many times has that posted? The concept.
5-7 years at least, probably.
Yeah, so 7 years of an idea, and you and him and the team have figured out a way not to get tired of that idea, but to constantly bring in the formats of the moment to make that thing relevant, which is what I would argue is like, that's a timeless Gary V idea, And then through, what you've been able to discover is you make it timely in the moment based on where the pipes of distribution are. And I think like that's a good way for people to think about like how to not just ride the timely, but to also come up with timeless thoughts. And I don't think sometimes when you look at content, let's just keep with Gary because he's one of the best in the world and invented a lot of this stuff and codified it in books, is I think I would spend more time thinking about what those timeless things could be and have hypotheses and put those out more often. And most importantly, don't give up on what that could be because something didn't get a lot of views. You might be one post away from that changing your life. And that goes back to me with the egg flipping of it all, is that was a prompt from Gary to really learn this stuff. And I was probably going to give up after 50 or 60 times getting a few thousand views. And then one thing I posted, which was very similar to all those things on TikTok in 2019, got 15 million views. And that changed my creative life forever and how I think about advertising and what I do at Vayner. And so I'd say like outside of any one trick or format of a piece of information that you get back from each post, is like at its core, make sure that like the idea engine of what you do, you're constantly revving that up and not giving up too early. And then I would just say like in the things that are interesting going on in places like Instagram and TikTok with a lot of the brands that we work on, one thing I'm obsessed with right now is I think that if you're a brand or you have to put out a message for, a cup of coffee or whatever it is I think resist the temptation to present it as advertising. And even if you're shooting advertising, for a big TV campaign or a billboard in Times Square, there's a great Garyism of document, don't create, is documenting the process of shooting the cup of coffee. And whether you're storytelling with a voiceover, a green screen, or it's the actors who are holding the cup of coffee in between the takes, talking about why they like so much coffee, shooting the shoot that you're doing for your advertising and almost showing the consumer, the algorithm, what's behind the actual advertising you're making continues to be like a format of the now that I'm obsessed with, because every time we do a big campaign, whether it's a Super Bowl thing or a big fall fashion thing, it's clear in the data after you execute the formal advertising versus what we shot around the advertising. It's not even close. What we shot around the advertising outperforms the formal advertising. And so I think like basically like throwing events so that you could in real life, so you can shoot content of the event to post that, having a shoot so you could shoot what happened at that shoot, the algorithm will find audiences that are super into that. And I think it catches people's attention right now because it's kind of the opposite of the expectation most consumers have of what brands normally serve them.
Yeah, 100%. I think to that first point that you said, which is really interesting, I think this is something we haven't really emphasized enough, which is I think like the reason that Gary's stuff does so well is the message. Like it's the It's the stuff that he says.
Yeah.
Like the tactics and the hacks and the platform stuff is actually secondary to that in a very significant way. Like it's like we'll try to add platform stuff. Like if the message itself doesn't hit, it will end up falling flat, which is why like the same messages keep working over and over and over again, like that 400 trillion to one.
Yeah.
Like, and there's like probably, 5 to 7 themes of content or ways of saying things that work over and over again. And that actually doesn't have to do with the platform, although that's important, but it's like the message and like brands finding that of like whatever that is becomes important, right? Like, in addition to the platform stuff.
Yeah, and then I think like there's just tried and true things that you can apply, in any business, any brand, any personal brand, which is the first thing I would do is, just tactically things to do. And I think if you've read the book, like you see the depth and breadth of the game that Gary has in this, and why can he write this book? Is he spends hours and hours studying what things look like in feeds. Like what is everybody creating today? And then how do you create something that stands out from that? And so a weird hack of all hacks is not like use more green screens. It's study what humans are paying attention to, not stuff that you're even making, but spending that time to really go deep on it. And there's a million different tools and ways to do that. But I think singularly, it's actually time. It's studying, like what actually is captivating humanity and breaking that out by different audiences. Cause like my mom might be captivated by something different than you're captivated by right now, but trying to understand the nuances of the audiences you're trying to speak to, or the cohort, like call them. And I think there's not enough time spent in the study mode around just observing and listening to what's going on in the pipes of social before you start creating. Everybody's kind of just looking for like a hack of like, oh, if I put this trending audio in, that'll get me views. And I just think like that's a very surface level thing that if you're competing against everybody, which you are as you're creating for algorithms when you hit post, I think you need to have a better advantage than the information that everybody else has at their finger, which is this is trending audio. And so like that's where I've seen and been so inspired by Gary and you and Sid and others, is that you just study it at a depth which allows you to come at it from such a different vantage point than people who are more surface level looking for like a tertiary hack to get views, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, there's I'll try to find there was a video that we posted recently that might be a good example of this. Just gonna find it.
Nice. Want me to talk while you're going?
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing for anybody sitting out there, and if you can sound off in the comments, just so we know if you're listening, is we have this phrase here at Vayner we call CASC, commenting as creative. One format or interesting thing that I am obsessed with at the moment is the fact that a single comment, and anybody who's on social right now knows, like whether it's in Reels or TikTok, like the second you see something that you're interested in, you go to the comments to see what's popping off there, is being very thoughtful and contributing something in the comments that is creative, that is inspired, that is relevant to whatever you're promoting and whatever that piece of content is, can change your life. And so we recently had on our JCPenney business, our first ever, I think, million like comment on a post that was not done by JCPenney or anything having to do with JCPenney. It was just something that the team found as a signal that they wanted to dive into that conversation. And it blows my mind that, probably tens of millions of people have seen that and had some impression of JCPenney that they didn't have prior, and that they drove some level of relevance. And it was through a comment, it was just being thoughtful in the moment. And so I think like stop, if you're in like the stop, start, continue, is like stop thinking about commenting as a secondary thing. And think of that as like a actual like prime time creative output for yourself that can get you just as much exposure as if you got something that got caught by the algorithm and got a few million views. And I think that's happening every second, 24 hours a day in every platform right now. And I think it's hard work. And if anybody's been around Gary for a while, and Raghav, you know it better than anybody, is the $1.80 strategy is as real as ever. And, you can Google that while we're talking, but like that is like just showing up in the comments and leaving your 2 cents and doing that a lot will change the calculus of where you end up as a creator or as a brand over time.
Yeah, there was this post or that comment actually about the comments getting more likes. So we did this piece of content. If you're 36, feel like you're losing life, read the first comment, right? So this
yeah,
I love read this. The first comment, like CTA has been working, but like the interesting thing here is that this post has 7.4K reactions, right? The post has 7.4K reactions. The first comment has 8.8K reactions.
Yeah.
So like the comment, the Gary's comment on his own post got more likes than the post itself.
And I've never seen. Just building on that, because we want to do show and tell. I love what you guys did on this. I shared this out with some friends. This was on Gary's handle on Facebook, like the 18 things, which basically is a condensed version of what's in here, in a comment, had the same level of engagement like that did as the post itself. And so I think like it's an edge, but like what I always admire about you guys is paying you lots of roses is that's just work. Like that's just, that's just thinking differently, showing up in a comment with a different format. And so I think that comes through experimentation first and foremost, and really studying what's happening, because I'm sure you were inspired by something that you saw in terms of how to start doing that within Facebook, but you have genuine curiosity, which informs that strategy. And so I actually think like the root thing that you all need, if anybody's listening to this, is like curiosity of where is consumer attention going? Where is it underpriced? And like, how do you start experimenting into that versus doing what everybody's doing, which is, paying homage to yesterday. So that execution, I would definitely do that right now. If anybody's posting something today, is look at Gary's handle on Facebook. It's exploding, in the comments. It's super cool.
Yeah, it's just like being in it. And big shout out to Mano on our team, Naray on our team, like who like are actually experimented on things like that. And it's like, I think just paying attention and just being in the data and like it's not just like we're looking at it in one session or one meeting. Like we're looking at it in the evening or looking at it in the afternoon and just like poking it, like, oh, how did this post do? How did this? And just like constantly to that point about curiosity, just like looking at it all the time and what's working.
One thing that I, again, like in the spirit of yes, and it's hard for people to wrap their head around. But one thing I'm obsessed with at the moment is reposting.
Yeah.
Like, I think, if you follow this logic, everybody at home, this will be a little bit long-winded. Hopefully you do. Raghav, tell me if it doesn't make any sense. It's the first time I said this out loud. Is if social media essentially became the television, different from our TVs where we have that guide, and then you select. Social media became a TV where an algorithm chooses the show and you audition with your thumb to whether or not you want to watch that piece of content. Seinfeld, Friends, this.
Yeah. Yep.
The thing that got really interesting to me is, given you only have so much time to audition, an algorithm is serving different pieces of content to different people. It's like a pipe with billions of things going into it that it has to divvy up to places where it thinks people will like it for that audition. Mm-hmm. Is I just can't see around the fact that the rerun in television, people are still watching Seinfeld. People are still watching Friends. Mm-hmm. I find it weird that we're bringing old social media habits into, I post it once because I don't want my followers to see it many times. If you look at your analytics, at least, looking at my personal accounts, is 99% of the people who see my stuff every day are not following me. I only have all told 500,000 followers across the platforms, but I'm able to get tens of millions of views a month. All of the people watching that don't follow me. It's like I reach 1% of my followers on average on post. So to me, it's not even reruns. It's like discovery each time you're posting. And so just one strategy, if anybody's struggling out there today of I just can't get the thing going, is cut it up, change make it shorter, put a voiceover on it, try a text overlay, try 3 different hooks, use trial reels on Instagram, post it on YouTube Shorts. There's a breadth of different ways to attack it. Is repost the stuff. Don't give up on your content too early. I really feel like most people out there are sitting on a thing that's like Gary's 400 trillion to 1, but they gave up after posting it once and they said, I'm a loser and I'm the worst. Instead of being like, how do I produce that if I really believe in it and I'm getting insight back in some way that it either stinks or people like it or there's one comment, like don't give up on it because you posted it once. And I would tell you like just case studies on that where I have like the ultimate freedom is I've posted certain things 60 times. And on the 58th time, it got 37 million views. And every other time I posted it, it got under 20,000.
That's insane.
And I've got like 50 of those case studies at this point. And so that's not easy for the biggest brands in the world to wrap their head around. But if you're a creator, an entrepreneur, small business, is like, just don't be afraid to do that. And then I'll close with this one because I think we're getting walked off the stage here is don't be afraid to have more than one handle. You know, Team Gary V, how many, you know, like you've got Gary's main handle on Instagram. You got Team Gary V. I think one thing that Gary's really brought forward into Vayner with our Fortune 500 clients this year is handle strategy. Is you can have 10 different Instagram handles if you're a coffee company. The follower era is behind us. So all you need is the handle and a great piece of creative. And that handle with 100 followers can reach as many people as your other handle that has 100 million followers on it. Mm-hmm. And it's a forcing function for everybody to really wrap their head on what social media became once you start doing that. And so if you haven't tried that move yet, like I would just do it today. It's like start with one other handle that has maybe a little bit of a different or nuanced purpose, or it's more targeted towards a certain audience or objective in your business than what your main handle is. And so I think like a few years from now, people will have heard Gary say that, including me and our company, 100 times, and then they'll start doing it. So instead of wasting 5 years where we don't kind of listen to Gary when he says those things out loud, I would just go do that today. And so it's advice I'm giving myself and for anybody at VaynerX, like, let's do it. I think he's been pretty clear on it. So let's have at it.
All right. I love it. Thank you, Nick. Hopefully this was good for everyone. And I guess
that's the dish.
Nice for good.
Beautiful. All right. Ciao.